This is a special presentation of America at a Crossroads. Europeans loved America as liberators in 1945, then complained we overwhelmed them with burgers and Coke.
We don't want this influence.
After September 11th, they wept for us, until we attacked Iraq.
Why are we so ungrateful to a country that has never threatened us? The other view is, why should we snuggle up to an imperialist warmongering power?
Views of America from the other side of the pond.
If we must have stupid presidents, I want to vote.
America at a Crossroads visits the anti-Americans.
You find so many faults with me.
Oh my God!
Funding for America at a Crossroads was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
This is a rogue state. We're doing business. Business. This is a rogue state. You're on my hit list. Hit list. I'm dealing with the Arabs and the Jews as well. I tell them how it is or they can go to hell. White skin, dark skin, it doesn't matter. But if you try and cross me, it's your head up on a platter. Tell you this is a rogue state. This is a rogue state. You're on my axis of evil. You may be knock-kneed and feeble. You're on my axis. So there.
Welcome to Leviathan. Thank you all very much for turning out. This week, why do Europeans, why are we so ungrateful to a country that has never threatened us? That's one view. The other view is, why should we snuggle up to an imperialist warmongering power? Now,
It was our first evening in Europe, and we were in a Dublin pub listening to people talk about America.
I love Bugs Bunny, the original Dixieland jazz band, New Orleans, the Fall in Vermont, all these kind of things. But I feel I'm entitled to distance myself from the atrocity and the stupid atrocity that is American foreign policy. And
It had been billed as a debate, but almost everyone seemed to be in agreement.
All the European countries make an effort right now to get to know their culture, they get to know each other, etc. You don't get that in America. They're very much so into themselves. They love themselves.
It's the longest-lived republic in the history of the world. America has this ability to renew and reinvent itself. It is not an empire. It is not an empire in anything like the same way that any of the European empires were. That's a historical fact.
all right, who's got to pipe down the floor? America is a very, very useful construct for us to ventilate our own inadequacies and frustrations with ourselves. Because you're not going to attack us. You're going to be nice to us. You know, it's not like it's not like a risky strategy being anti-American. You know, if you're Polish and you're anti-Russian in 1955, now that's a risky strategy. But here it's the cute whore, the Schlevine's view, which is to be anti-Americanism has great rhetoric and no downside risk.
Invaded Iraq. Next year, maybe even next month, who knows? We might be heroes again.
Hey, we need more guys in here! Hey!
But given the way things have gone over the last few years, that doesn't seem very likely.
I think the problem America has got is the simple envy and resentment that attends any great power when it is unchallenged. And I think there's also a certain amount of anxiety about George W. Bush.
We see Bush on television talking about a divine mission, and we think, you can't do this. You know, we've got the Ayatollahs telling us about their divine mission. We don't want to hear this from you. So that's always a problem, I think, for Europeans.
Bush has switched on something I haven't seen for a very long time, which is the sense of, wait a minute, not only are you culturally all around us, but damn it, you're doing stupid things that could screw up my world. In which case, I want the right to have some say in who runs your country. If you must have stupid presidents, I want to vote.
Just as France loves camembert and England prefers cheddar, each European country hates and loves America in its own particular way.
Je pense que c'est un pays excessivement raciste sur tous les plans. Dans les États, dans les petits villages, dans la... que ce soit, parce qu'il faut pas... En France, on ne fait pas l'amalgame entre New York, qui est un État dans l'État, et le reste de l'Amérique. Et je crois que le reste de l'Amérique est foncièrement raciste.
Think about a typical American in your mind. Think about something that they might say. Just the first thing that comes into your head when you think of an American in England. Freeze. And 1, 2, 3, speak. Oh my God! Oh my God!
How you doing? How you doing? Where does the Queen live? Where does the Queen live?
When you see a dollar bill, it always brings happy memories. The only time I could buy me chocolate when I was a kid was when we would receive $1, go to a special store controlled by the communists, pay them this dollar, and get chocolate. So America, all those presidents, all that green.
We wanted to make sense of all these transatlantic attitudes. So we set off to see what America looked like from the other side of the pond.
Jak zobaczyłam tych wszystkich okrutnych grubasów, to sobie myślę, żebym tylko zdążyła uciec z Ameryki, żeby mnie nie chwycił ten wirus tej otyłości, bo myślę,
It promised to be something of a rough trip.
jakby wóz za sobą ciągnęli, z tyłu na tyłek byś mu usiadł i by cię zaniósł na parking, bo taką dupę do tyłu miał, taki nie jeden, i po prostu spoceni dotąd, ledwo chodzili takie...
No French politician would go on television, especially, during a political campaign, saying, I love America, and I think we should do exactly what they do, and we should be for free enterprise and for individual merit, and the state should not intervene in anything. The guy can do that, but then it's like committing suicide, okay? He never get elected ever again.
Soldats, vous êtes l'élite de l'armée américaine. C'est vous qui allez débarquer les premiers en Irak. Vous avez un putain de job à faire. J'attends de vous qu'il soit bien fait. J'attends un investissement aveugle de chacun d'entre vous. C'est compris, Cooper? Sir, yes, sir! Thompson? Sir, yes, sir! McDonald?
Sir, yes, sir!
Marlborough? Sir, yes, sir! Mickey? Alors, tenez-vous prêts. Vous êtes sûr que c'est avec eux qu'on va gagner? C'est avec eux qu'on gagne toujours, soldats. Ouais, mais quand même, balancer des saloperies pareilles, je sais pas si c'est permis par la Convention de Genève.
Les Guignols de l'Info is an enormously popular fake news show on French TV. It's kind of a cross between Jon Stewart and South Park, and we thought it would be a good place to catch up on French attitudes towards the United States.
Alors, moi, je suis Monsieur Sylvestre, président de la World Company. Je me bats pour que le monde mondial soit de plus en plus riche. Et quand j'y arrive pas, j'appelle le commandant Sylvestre. Hein, commandant, moi, je suis là pour faire tout péter, les cocos, les bougnolles, jusqu'à ce qu'on arrive à nos résultats. Et peut-être même aussi les fromages qui puent.
5 nights a week, just before the real news, the Guignols get away with things that would give nightmares to an American network executive. The day after the World Trade Center was attacked, It was just another day at the office for the Guignols.
L'événement de ce mercredi 12 septembre, c'est bien sûr la Troisième Guerre mondiale qui a commencé hier à New York et Washington. Tous les journaux relatent les faits, Le Parisien, Le Figaro, Libération, François, L'Humanité. Mais c'est l'équipe qui résume le mieux l'événement avec ce titre « Allah 1, Jésus 0 ».
Voilà, donc là on est dans la maison Guignol, ou en tout cas la maison des têtes Guignol. C'est là où sont rangés nos 300 personnages. Vous allez peut-être le reconnaître. The Father. Condoleezza, c'est une fille pas commode. Elle nous fait peur. Le Stallone. Alors on en a plein des Stallone. Alors au début le personnage était un peu idiot. C'était un peu un gaffeur, il ne comprenait pas trop ce qu'il faisait. Et on symbolisait l'armée américaine. Puis petit à petit, on s'est dit finalement, ça symbolise la puissance américaine et d'une certaine façon, c'était l'incarnation du capitalisme. Et après, on l'a changé. Il a pris un costume, une cravate, et c'est devenu le grand patron de la World Company.
Avant que ces deux gros cons arrivent.
Les Sly ne parlent pas sans nous.
Les Sly, qui eux représentent vraiment l'entourage de Bush, c'est-à-dire les ultra-cathos, les grosses compagnies américaines qui l'ont fait élire, qui mettent de l'argent pour sa campagne. Ils représentent ces gens-là.
C'est-à-dire que George Bush peut disparaître aux prochaines élections, mais les Sly resteront.
Ils restent là.
C'est-à-dire qu'ils changent les hommes, mais eux restent toujours en place.
C'est donc un peu comme ça, quoi. L'autre, c'est les fromages qui puent. Les fromages qui puent, c'est les...
C'est nous, quoi. French. Le fromage qui pue, c'est de
Call us fromage
cheese.
qui pue, like smell cheese.
Smell cheese.
Les fromages qui puent, le petit pays et la honte.
Ah, ils sont vraiment cyniques, quoi. C'est un peu comme ça.
On a Woody Allen aussi. Alors eux, on a fait Kerry, on a suivi un peu l'élection américaine. Et si Kerry avait gagné, les Stallone auraient été remplacés par des Woody.
Americans are the ideal enemies for the French. You know, the French want to be the voice that gives another possibility. They are against the world becoming American. Definitely. That would be a disaster because they will lose any significance, any mission, any function in the rest of the world.
There is a need to show France is at least equal or better, and that means the United States is bad. They are slightly less intelligent, less, they understand the world less. So the big thing is saying, oh, we don't want to do it the American way. Anything the American way is like an insult.
Oui, il arrive qu'on se pose la question de savoir si le mot airbag est toujours utilisé en français au lieu de coussin gonflable.
Hélas, oui.
Et la réponse est que nos constructeurs...
Everywhere they look, the French see America encroaching. And no European country has worked harder to defend its cultural independence and hold back the tide.
Il faudrait ridiculiser le terme airbag puisque c'est pas de l'air, n'est-ce pas? C'est un gaz. Il faudrait ridiculiser.
Qui ne tombe plus sous le coup de la loi. Et garde l'airbag.
On va revenir au coussin gonflable pour éviter la confusion. C'est peut-être un moyen de tuer l'airbag.
Ah oui,
The idea that French was somehow, and France with it, and French culture, and the French sort of savoir-vivre was part of a well-lived, civilized life. Makes it very hard for the French to imagine themselves as a medium-sized country in a wealthy but medium-sized continent with nothing to offer the world, really, other than good wine, good cheese, and opposition to American bad behavior.
Les Américains, non. Là, leur nourriture, là, ils peuvent la garder. Alimentation, foie gras et tout, le champagne et tout. Là, ils peuvent faire tout ce qu'ils veulent. C'est nous les meilleurs. Et c'est vrai. Ça c'est pas du chauvinisme, c'est vrai. Là, eux, leur plat, leur truc, ça vaut rien. Leur McDonald's. J'ai amené mon petit-fils, malgré tout. Hein. Je l'avoue. Mais c'est un étouffe chrétien. Hein. Le McDonald's, c'est un étouffe chrétien.
French think that quality of life means much more than money. We need money, of course, but this is not the real value. The value is time. So the ideal of America, the image that America is trying to sell us in a way, is terrifying for lots of French people. We don't want this system. We don't want this influence.
On ne veut pas avancer, nous. Nous, on veut rester comme on est. Rester bête. Pas compliqué, ça.
C'est l'ironie. On aime le camembert, la bouteille de vin, le béret.
Regardez-vous les papas.
Et la baguette.
Mais le problème, c'est qu'on vous copie. On vous copie. On copie 10 ans après, on fait comme les Américains. Et il y a un progrès qui n'est pas bon. Enfin, le progrès est bien. Mais...
The French live a better life than the Americans do. They enjoy themselves more. I know Americans find this hard to believe. I mean, they don't work as hard. They retire earlier. They've got better pensions. The American model, where you've got to work very hard, very long hours, because the whole point is to make lots of money, to consume lots of goods, and then go out and work some more. The idea that that might become French is deeply frightening, and it's across the board. Left and right, rich and poor, educated and uneducated. That's what frightens the French today.
On a jeté les Allemands, on va jeter quand même les Américains, non? C'est nous qui avons jeté les Allemands ou c'est les Américains? Bon, vous nous avez aidé un peu, mais on a payé cher pendant des années, hein? On vous a quand même bien remboursé. Ça a duré quand même pas loin de 30 ans.
People go through all sorts of elaborate pretenses about anti-Americans, but deep down, the French adore America. They lie through their teeth. It's absolute nonsense. The French pretend Chirac himself is the single biggest Americophile you could possibly discover. You know, he doesn't mean any of this nonsense. It's a way of... It's adolescent self-definition. That's what it is.
Surrounding every charming French city are somewhat less charming housing projects, where the comfortable French way of life can feel out of reach. In these neighborhoods, the usual tributes to France's glorious cultural past can seem a little surreal, while the American dream of making it big is a tempting alternative.
Mec, mais tu sais que je vais être ramé, donc lui en anglais, 5 du mat, 3 barrettes, toujours à la recherche du blé, les yeux 200 injectés, vas-y bounce, si t'es dans, je détard sur des tables, avec des tartés de ouf, tous mes rats sortis du groupe, qu'on la dalle et qui s'en pique, c'est comme ça que la biche la tue, c'est comme ça que la biche la tue. Tu mets un doublage?
En France, les gens ils sont là et quand ils commencent à nous voir, nous on est les premiers à porter des diamants, à porter des gros chaînes, même si les stars du rap elles en ont quelques-unes. Mais ça veut dire que quand les stars du rap elles nous voient, on est au même niveau dans le sens où on est là, on a des grosses voitures, on est là, on a des gros chaînes, on a des diamants, on a des grosses montres, etc. Maintenant quand les mecs du rap ils nous voient, ils peuvent que respecter le jeu, parce que le jeu il est que respectable.
Tu tu vis, tu vois, tu veux, je kick une ride avec toutes mes tasses. Attends, on va couper là.
Où ça? Je kick une ride avec toutes mes
Let the elites and the middle classes worry about the influence of the U.S. chipping away at French life. For these guys, there's always room for a bit of American swagger.
On n'envie pas les Américains, on est juste admiratif de leur game, parce que leur game il est plus serré qu'en France, si tu veux. Leur jeu, il est plus serré. Je suis pas pro-Bush, je suis même anti-Bush, mais maintenant, peu importe. Tu vois ce que je veux dire? Que je sois anti-Bush ou pas, ça changera pas grand-chose, tu vois.
On observe les techniques que Bush, que la politique a pour arriver à ses fins, parce que c'est un mec intelligent quand même, je veux dire.
Parce que son game, il est serré, voilà, comme disent les Américains, il a un game tight.
Moi, je respecte ça. Je suis pas du tout dans les idées qu'il a, mais je respecte la façon dont il a de mener à bien ses choses, en fait. C'est ça qu'on aime dans n'importe quoi, c'est ça qu'on aime, c'est quelqu'un qui sait faire quelque chose, quoi.
Un mec qui réussit
à faire ses trucs.
Je roule sans permis B, ma poche est pleine de thunes et de produits.
The French are obsessed with America. It's an object of resentment and envy,
And we don't have the same passionate relationships with Germany or Spain or Italy or Belgium, because the French only look west. And the only nation they want to compare themselves with is the United States. And they think it's very unfair that you are so strong today, and that we are so weak. It should be the other way around.
J'aimerais bien le silence. Donc vous allez faire un petit dessin ou un petit texte qui pourra représenter, quand on vous dit les États-Unis, ce à quoi vous pensez. Ce que tu connais, ça suffit.
We decided to look for signs that French attitudes towards America might be starting to change. So we paid a visit to the Lycée Henri IV, the school where France's future leaders are groomed.
Le PDG de McDo, il est très riche. Il y a une grande limousine. Et là, il y a le président Bush. Il dit un slogan pour qu'on vote pour lui. Si vous votez pour moi, le burger sera à moitié frit et tout le monde l'applaudit.
Alors ici, c'est un Américain à l'école qui ne comprend pas trop l'alphabet. Alors il y a environ 60% d'Américains comme ça. Alors ici, c'est la guerre. Il y a un Américain armé d'un pistolet, d'un couteau et d'une mitraillette qui tue quelqu'un. C'est un puits de pétrole. C'est Bush qui est content de ramasser du pétrole et de massacrer la planète. Il est content de massacrer la planète.
The key for the French is very simple. I think. I think, therefore I am. Not I do, therefore I am. I think. Right? Le penseur, Rodin, the thinker. You know. So the French think. And they think for the rest of the world. And there is one thing that they are absolutely sure is the Americans don't think.
So it seemed that asking Europeans about America was a bit like holding up a mirror to their national character. What was reflected was a mix of history, national pride, and cultural prejudice. As we headed off for Eastern Europe, we wondered what the mirror would reflect in Poland, a place where the past was never far from people's minds.
In building their new life, the people of Poland find inspiration in the splendid example given by the Soviet people. This gives you an idea of the palace of culture and science, which the Soviet Union is building.
The Poles have got a complex, because Poland lives in existential fear of something terrible happening to it. Then there's the complication of religion. A country where the Catholic Church is so important has great difficulty negotiating its way in secular Europe. Then, on top of that, the history of the Holocaust is bound up with Polish history. And of course the Poles then resent the fact that lots of Poles were killed, but that gets forgotten. And so all of these complexes, if Poland were a person, they would be in permanent analysis, permanent unresolved psychological trauma.
I obecnie znajdujemy się w Warszawie, w mieście, które cały czas siedziało pod jakąś okupacją. Dawno temu była pod okupacją właśnie caratu. Później były próby robienia jakiegoś księstwa z tego, ale jak zwykle nic nikomu nie wyszło, bo u nas wszyscy dużo robią, ale wychodzi jak zwykle, czyli wychodzi niestety bardzo kiepsko. Następnie znowuż trafiliśmy pod okupację niemiecką, następnie trafiliśmy pod okupację sowiecką, a w tej chwili jesteśmy pod okupacją następnych ugrupowań, tym razem ponoć naszych. Nie wiem, czy oni są nasi, czy nie nasi. Ktoś ich wybrał, ale na pewno nie ja. Także no, zobaczymy, jak ta ostatnia okupacja się odbędzie, bo to, że coś tutaj się zmieni na lepsze, to ja w to po prostu wątpię. Bo każdy ciągnie jak zwykle.
Unlike almost everyone we met in the West, the Poles were not especially interested in critiquing the American war on terror or complaining about George W. Bush. Years of living with bad neighbors had left them eager for a powerful friend who would look out for them.
Polish politicians nowadays, they love to stress that we have a strategic partnership with the United States, which is true for us, that this is our main partner. But I don't think that this is true for President Bush, Clinton, or whoever would live in the White House.
We feel America is our big brother, but I'm not sure that America knows it has a little brother out there. And I think that really puts it well. Poor relatives, are always gaping at their rich relative, and the rich relatives tend to be forgetful.
Feeling neglected is something of a Polish character trait, and it helped us understand how the past continues to haunt the Poles. Living amidst the crumbling remnants of Soviet architecture, they're not about to forget who's done them wrong.
Russia is the empire of evil. It was the empire of evil, and it still be for a long time to come an empire of evil. And the only power that could keep balance in the world is America. If something would happen here in our country, only America would help us. French, they didn't help twice. Brits, they don't care. They don't care about anything except themselves.
We're kind of stuck in the 80s as far as our relationship to the States is concerned. There is this very simplistic vision of the fall of the Soviet Empire and America's role in it. The idea is that Ronald Reagan and John Paul II and Lech Wałęsa, got together and did it. And whatever I might think of that story, it's the story that a lot of Poles believe. And I think every president after Ronald Reagan was just a kind of next incarnation, right? And we don't really see the difference. We don't really care about America's relationship to the rest of the world.
The commies would feed us a lot of bad things about America, bad propaganda, and we are the rebels. They feed you, you don't believe anything, even if there is some truth in it. You would just rebel. Oh yes, America is bad? We love it.
Purple light in the canyon, that's where I long to be, with my 3 good companions, just my rifle, pony, and me, gonna hang.
It's not every day that one encounters a Polish cowboy, but we knew that for the generation who grew up under communism, there'd be some individuals who drew more than a passing inspiration from America.
I was 7. Actually, I was just 2 weeks off my 7th birthday, and my daddy would listen to the Voice of America radio program, which was the only reliable source of information in the post-World War II communist Poland. And actually, listening to the Voice of America radio programs was, well, a criminal act, but nevertheless, he would do that. And one night, he forgot to change channel after having heard the news, and I heard Ernest Tubb singing like, wait a minute. I'm walking the floor over you. And it impressed me so much, and I fell in love with that particular tune and that voice and that low-tuned guitar. And like we've already talked, many more.
Westerns and visits to Arizona, Lone Star has created a kind of parallel country western universe. It may seem vaguely familiar, but it has a definite Polish spin.
All right. So this is a kind of political song. It's a story of a guy who discovered the outside world through Western movies. And there's a line which, by the way, was prohibited by Polish censorship. This song was banned by Polish censorship in the 80s. There's a line saying that I saw there's a prairie on a screen and Siberia outside beyond the wall, the theater's wall. And another line saying that even now we have entered Europe, but nevertheless there's always somebody who criticizes me and who tells me to take off my cowboy hat and do this and don't do that.
Nie wiem, czy wytrzymałbym te wszystkie krawcy i patrole.
It wasn't only Lone Star who took his inspiration from the romance of the open road and the down-home sentiments of American country music. It turns out that Poland sometimes looks like Branson, Missouri these days.
In the summertime, when the weather is high, you switch right up and the sky.
John Wayne, prawie.
So we found ourselves at the oldest country music festival in Eastern Europe, where thousands of fans can't wait to get into the spirit.
My tu co roku przyjeżdżamy, dlatego że ta atmosfera jest.
To wszystko fajnie.
Ja jestem 30 lat młodszy teraz, jak jestem.
muzyka country w ogóle.
No, to ci co krów pilnowali, oni po swojemu śpiewali na koniach, no. Stamtąd, ja myślę.
They dress up in goofy cowboy hats, which are 2 times smaller than they should be. They don't know what cowboys are, really. Plus, you cannot become a cowboy. You have to be born a cowboy. So, they don't know what it is. They think cowboys go after cows and milk them, which they don't.
If you ask a Polish person in the street, what is America, they'll say freedom. But that's partly because they're repeating the cliche. That's what you say when you're asked, what is America? But when you ask them, well, why are you going? It's probably, because my cousin such and such lives in Chicago and he's arranging a job for me.
This was one of the things that made Poland different. Unlike most Western European countries, Poles have plenty of direct experience with the United States.
Ameryce? Nie, pewnie przyjazny kraj dla Polski, nie? A ogólnie trzeba pracować. Tak, tu.
No bo wszystko jest, proszę panią. Ludzie mają pracę, ludzie wszystko mają zapewniony byt, a w Polsce co mamy?
No chyba pojadę za... bo mamy tam wujka.
A jedna pojechała, to ona miała jednego syna i pojechała tam 20 lat. Tam siedzi i chałupę postawiła taką jako nigam.
A za czym jadą? Co oni jadą się tam opalać do Miami Beach? Tylko za kasą. Ale dolar jest kiepski.
Practically everyone we met had a relative living in the States, and many people travel back and forth all the time, looking to make some money. But there's a problem, and we heard about it everywhere we went.
Tutaj po prawej stronie zaraz będzie ambasada amerykańska.
Tutaj stoją ludzie całymi godzinami po to, żeby otrzymać wizę. Robi mu się z tego łaskę i często się go po prostu poniża. Tu w biurze poniża się go.
It turns out that the biggest issue in Polish-American relations these days is not about the war in Iraq or Osama bin Laden. It's about who is allowed to visit the United States.
Those French dicks that hate you, they go to America whenever they please. They don't have to show no visa. They don't have to pay for the visa. They just show their French passport that hates you. The passport hates you. And they enter. And they can stay 90 days, 60 days. I have to apply for the visa. I have to queue. I have to pay like $100 to get it, or to lose my $100 because some red tape and they tell me no. So French don't fight with you in Iraq. They don't give you their hearts, but they get the visas, free access to America. We give you everything, and we're not getting anything in return. We're like a woman who you bit.
Jeżeli komukolwiek wydaje się, że jeżeli otworzą granicę, jeżeli Ameryka otworzy granicę, natychmiast wszyscy Polacy zapakują się i wyjadą, to są w dużym błędzie, bo nie będzie tak, że wszyscy wyjadą, a ostatni zgasi światło.
Nie mam zamiaru zabierać rynku pracy Portorykanom i innym. Nie mam zamiaru, nie będę tego robił. Natomiast kochamy ten kraj i chcemy go zmieniać. Nie jest łatwo, o tym mówimy.
We were starting to get the idea that for the Poles, America is no longer the shining city on the hill. its global reach is more present than ever in Polish daily life. And we wondered if the United States would end up being just another unwanted visitor coming to take advantage of Poland.
Tutaj znajduje się Pałac Kultury. Jest to dar Związku Radzieckiego dla narodu polskiego. Typowa budowla komunistyczna.
Z czym się kojarzy? No kojarzy nam się z pustymi półkami, dlatego że utrzymanie
no, kiedyś pracowaliśmy na Związek Radziecki, teraz pracujemy powiedzmy na Amerykę i Zachód. Tutaj z tej strony znajduje się hotel Marriott. Typowo amerykański oczywiście. Nie wiem, czy traktować to też jako dar Amerykanów, no niekoniecznie się z tym zgodzę. Tam znajduje się budynek postawiony przez Włochów. Ten budynek jest budynkiem należącym do jakiejś korporacji, oczywiście zachodniej. Ten budynek jest to hotel Intercontinental, też oczywiście nie nasz. Nasz to jest tylko i wyłącznie ten budynek, gdzie jest jadłodajnia dla biednych warszawiaków. My swojego w tej Warszawie nie mamy nic. Tylko i wyłącznie biedę i nic poza tym.
My warszawiacy kochamy to miasto takie jak jest. I kochamy go z tymi dziurami, z tym rozpuszczonym asfaltem.
No, dokładnie.
Go kochamy i kochamy go dlatego, że to jest nasze miasto. Nasza stolica. A Amerykę lubimy.
Tak,
lubimy
z daleka
Amerykę.
mogę wam pomachać bardzo chętnie,
najlepszego.
ale tylko i wyłącznie, nic więcej. Nic więcej.
I nie bójcie się nas, Polaków, Amerykanie. To my wam jesteśmy potrzebni, a nie wy nam. Chyba że wolicie Portorykanów.
Once upon a time, there was another English-speaking power that held sway over the world militarily, economically, and culturally.
You go into the Imperial War Museum. It's my favourite place in London. In the Imperial War Museum, there's a map of Europe in 1940. And there's this huge swastika that covers all of Europe, apart from Switzerland. And then there's this tiny little island and it's saying no! You know, like, it's just, and that's Britain, that's British culture. If you want to understand British culture, look at the tiny little island versus the Nazi war machine. And you just love them. But like, the thing is, you know, those were the days when Britain was on the world stage, was a leading role.
But Britannia hasn't ruled the waves for 50 years. So we had come to England to see how the Brits were coping with the situation.
The British found it very difficult to come to terms with the loss of their global preeminence. We felt a deep sense of hurt and loss that we used to run the world and we don't anymore. So in order to palliate that insecurity, we tend to run ourselves down too much. And we're also snooty about the people who do run the world.
What do you think about Americans?
Seems to be a bit big-headed, to be honest with you. Rule the world, want to rule the world.
Bit outrageous. Do you know what I mean? Really outrageous. And they love everything big, don't they? The lot. Even the politicians. Mr. Bush.
To be a winner is the be-all and end-all for him in America, from what we gather. And it isn't as far as we're concerned.
They're friendly. We were on about this last time. Bubbly, polite.
Free, rich, brash.
We have a very split view of America in Britain. Half of it comes from the fact that we watch a huge amount of American television. And I think a huge number of people in this country sort of live in America in their heads. The other half of the view is a political view, and it imagines America is a sort of blundering series of clowns who are wandering around the globe not knowing what they're doing.
In the period after 9/11, it seemed like relations between our two countries had never been closer, at least on the level of president and prime minister.
It's my honor to welcome the Prime Minister. We had a nice walk around Camp David and got to know each other. And as they told me, he's a pretty charming guy. He put the charm offensive on me.
Don't take your love from me. It's all I have, you see.
What this world needs is steady, rock-solid leaders who stand on principle. And that's what the Prime Minister means to me.
We both of us, in different ways, the United States and Britain,
have had cause to be thankful for this alliance and this partnership.
Going back to World War II, Britain has been America's staunchest friend in Europe. In fact, the two powers had struck a bargain that had lasted for decades. America, the superpower, would provide protection and a chance for Britain to keep its finger in the pie of world affairs. Britain, in turn, would give its prestige and loyalty to America. It would be a special relationship.
I know that you don't really love me.
On paper, at least, it's a relationship of peers. But over the years, many Brits can't shake the nagging feeling that Americans aren't always on the same page.
The special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom is strong. It is enduring. It is based on a number of different things, but we have been close friends and alliance.
Even back in the 80s, at the height of the kind of Thatcher-Reagan alliance, I went to Harvard and I was there for a year, and when I got there, I would refer casually in conversation to the special relationship, imagining that, that my American peers would know exactly what I was talking about, and to a man, they just didn't have a clue what that meant. They thought it was a sex thing, What? A special relationship? With who? It was like, so you haven't heard of this. Great.
After years in Iraq, most Brits have turned cynical, wondering just what's so special about following America into messy entanglements.
According to the White House, only the president's most important visitors are invited to stay the weekend at Prairie Chapel Ranch. That honor was bestowed on Tony Blair earlier this year. Much of the British press had their own verdict on Blair's status. It's a view shared, according to the latest polls, by a majority of the British public.
Have you tried this wine? It's fantastic.
Which one are you on about? The white?
Yeah, the Pinot very, very nice.
Nobody in Britain wants to think they're playing second fiddle to America, either politically or culturally. It's especially vexing for members of the educated upper middle classes, who dominate intellectual life.
A fashionable dinner party in London, they would be patronizing about America, they would be leftish, they would try to deny that they were anti-American, they would say that they're just anti-Bush, that they actually love the American people. But by the American people, all they mean are the 3 college professors they've met and the 6 viewers of PBS.
I do think Americans are quite self-conscious when it comes to dealing with Europe. Americans are the first nation to come from barbarians, to skip the civilized bit and go into
consumerism.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite cool. That's quite cool. I like that. Well, I watched those debates with Kerry and Bush, and I thought Kerry was so much more articulate, measured.
Yeah, but the interesting
That's
thing,
through European eyes.
Yeah, but when Bush floundered and
Yeah.
Kerry was glib and educated and this kind of thing, the whole of blue-collar America liked Bush because
he's a real man.
Yeah, because they are inarticulate and not very well educated as well.
The scary thing is the naivety and the ignorance of the American people in relation to their politicians.
But they're the voters.
I know.
Why should an idiot society have intelligent politicians?
Well,
Because
they
if you
haven't
just
got intelligent politicians.
well, exactly. Why should they? I mean, if the idiot society just wants a car, a television, and sort of selfishness, why should they have interesting politicians?
Don't buy into that. Bush is much smarter
Mm.
than we think. Well, he's highly manipulative. He's highly. He may not be
He's highly
particularly-
manipulated.
What I
as
actually
well.
said was he's not an intellect, but he's highly intelligent and he knows what he's doing.
Yes, but there's no ideology, is there?
Uncomplicated.
Yeah, uncomplicated.
And they're ill-informed.
You know, like,
very
and international news, American man run over in Frankfurt.
Well, I think the charitable view of the British response to the reality of what America is in the 21st century is that it is divided. I think the uncharitable view is that it's blatantly hypocritical. I waver between the two because often when I experience British people articulating knee-jerk anti-American sentiments, you do feel like saying to them, but you're sucking on this tit. And meanwhile, you're punching the other one, and you really can't do that. It shows you up to be an extremely shallow person.
They may have disdain for us, but they can't seem to take their eyes off of us either. Ever since Dickens, the British have been fascinated and horrified by American society.
Go!
Chris Pellecci is 19, a student and a city girl. She came from New York, but seems to be adapting to the Wild West.
Kill him! Oh, you saw him! Engage him! Kill him! Duck!
How's she doing?
Following in the tradition of the great imperial explorers, an unending parade of British TV personalities has made its way to the wilder shores of American culture.
I'm looking for Fort Templar.
And America never fails to disappoint.
I'm Fort Templar, Lord Commander of the North American Sector.
Thanks very much. I'm Louis Theroux from BBC Two.
Welcome.
What does the alien resistance movement actually do?
We monitor the extraterrestrials coming into the planet. One of our main goals is to help the individual who's being abducted and implanted, to remove implants from average individuals.
British people do feel this terrible sense of inferiority, because in the global pecking order, we rank so far below America. We'll clutch at anything which enables us to feel even fleetingly superior to Americans. And that's one of the reasons the stereotype of Americans is of these kind of idiotic, crazy Jerry Springer type freaks.
No, hell no, you're a trash. Oh, really? Yeah, really. No, that's his decision.
It may be comforting for some Brits to see all these weird characters showing up on their TVs, but for others, the intensity of American culture can be something of an inspiration.
The funny thing about the Jerry Springer show is that sometimes I find it really moving, sometimes I felt ashamed that I was watching it. All these conflicting emotions. Sometimes I was embarrassed for the people on the show, sometimes I felt an anti-American upsurge, other times I felt like a hypocrite. So it was really interesting. To the English mindset, the knee-jerk reaction was, it's just, people on stage screaming at each other, a huge audience screaming at them. It was just a bleep fest. And I suddenly thought, hang on, this would be a great opera. And it really was a eureka moment. I thought, okay, I have to do this. I'm going to do this now.
When it first came out, my agent called me and said there's this great show that you'd be great for, and he said it's Jerry Springer the Opera, and I just thought, what a ridiculous idea.
Oh, so did I. I couldn't think how they could do it. Did you
that's
know?
why I think it's so clever.
Yeah. I think sometimes the more truth we play it, the kind of funnier and almost sadder it is in a way, isn't it?
I play Dwight. I'm a serial adulterer. I've got 3 women on the go. Peaches, the beautiful Carrie here. Her best friend's Andra, and I'm also 3-timing them with a man. But don't knock it till you tried it.
I love you. I love you.
Okay, Dwight.
As a British person, you feel that this is a kind of piece of American trash, and what a shame that our culture will be infected by it. But it does seem to embody on some level some of the things that are great about America, namely freedom of speech and a certain kind of social equality in that everyone there is allowed to say whatever they want, no matter how stupid and ill-informed it is. And I think there's something noble about that, genuinely.
This is my Jerry.
Watching the spectacle, we sensed a curious mix of superiority and envy towards America. There was the usual British infatuation with weirdos and trashy culture. But at the same time, there seemed to be a yearning for a kind of vitality that's missing in Britain.
So dip me in chocolate and throw me to the lesbians.
The America of Jerry Springer may be crawling with crazies, but it's also full of possibilities.
There were a couple of reviews of the show that said, look at these ridiculous Americans and the way that they're being portrayed, isn't it great? That was never our intention. But I think that why that is happening is not so much to do with the show, but to do with the fact that people want an outlet for anti-Americanism. I mean, the most commercial thing you could do in Europe at the moment would be to write an explicitly anti-American show. If you made a film which was about George Bush being tortured to death for an hour and a half, it would be massive all across Europe. Everyone would go. I mean, you couldn't do it, unless it had artistic merit.
This is our Jerry Springer moment. We don't want this moment to die. So dip us in chocolate and throw us...
Every single English class hates America in its own special way. And every single English class loves America in its own special way. What they don't dare to acknowledge is that they are, that their kind of mindset has been formed by America much more than they dare to think, and that they have taken on a lot of American values for themselves, and that really in attacking what they perceive to be the USA, they're attacking themselves.
You've got to understand what we Brits really deep down think about America. Shall I tell you the deep truth that your viewers have got to accept, and they won't like it? We basically think we invented you. And you're our creatures. And you're our proxies. And because you happen to be speaking our language, which as Bismarck correctly said, was the single most important fact in world history, we take a proprietorial pride, secretly, in everything you do. So well done. And carry on.
America is so present in everyone's lives, so present in everyone's mind, in their references. Everyone wants to be American without actually losing the right to say that America is misbehaving. So there's this sort of permanent love-hate relationship.
They've come to steal our women, they've come to kill our boys, they've come to shag our daughters, they've come to break our toys.
In the 50 years following World War II, it was possible to look at Europeans and think that they were becoming more and more like us. But with the Cold War over and the Soviet threat gone, it could be that America and Europe have become more like a couple that have been married for years and suddenly realize that they don't have as much in common as they once did.
As a kid, there's no place you're more excited about going. And when you first get to America, you are as fascinated by Mount Rushmore and the Grand Canyon as you are by just packaging of Twinkies and things like that, because they all have a mythical status. And the problem now is that when you go there, because of everything that's happened in the last few years, you feel irritated and annoyed by the same things that used to delight you.
But I think we have more in common than we think. It may be the old couple syndrome, but many old couples eventually come to terms with the idea that it's better to stick together than to go to the unknown.
Well, everybody's different, so everybody's scared. Go about your business, but beware! Beware! The Cancer Society!
If I would try to give the piece of advice to my American friends, I would tell them, try to learn languages. Don't think that everyone in the world speaks English. And go outside, go to Europe, go to Asia, go to Africa, and learn about the world as a whole.
Well, everybody's different, everybody's scared. We got nuclear bombs and old King Kong and low-fat dairy treats, so come on down.
Well, one thing I will say is that we've got to get rid of that Windows spell check. We've got to get rid of the Windows spell check. And the word colour, can I just inform you, the word colour is spelled C-O-L-O-U-R, okay? Get rid of the Windows spell check, and I think relations will be greatly improved.
Find interactive maps, discussion guides, and more about America at a Crossroads at pbs.org. funding for America at a Crossroads was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. To order this episode of America at a Crossroads or other programs from the series on DVD, call 1-800-PLAY-PBS.